And now we're going to talk about something called absolute values. And before we start correcting it in our spreadsheet, let's do a little lesson over here on the side. So when I have I2, that is a relative cell reference. Wherever I move it, the I will become JKL, the 2 will become 345. If I wanted to stick to I2 no matter what, the syntax for that is $I, $2. And I don't know why they use a $, because we think $, money. This $, has nothing to do with money. This is saying that absolutely no matter where I copy this formula, I want to refer back to cell I2. So this one is movable. This one is completely, absolutely immovable. And so one of these two are what you're going to use 95% of the time. Now, there are also something called a mixed reference. And so if I did $I2, what that's going to do is say that this formula is going to stay in column I, but it can move up and down accordingly. And when I can do the opposite, I can do $2. And what that's going to do is stay in row 2, but allow me to move back and forth from side to side. So these are called mixed references. The way that you put them in is I'm going to go back over to my I4, and I'm going to click my cursor so that it's touching the I2 in the formula bar. Doesn't matter if it's before it, in the middle of it, or after it, as long as it's touching it. And when you're on a PC, the F4 key, your function key up at the top of your keyboard, the one that has F4 right on it, is a toggle. And it will toggle through all 4 states of it. So if I do F4 the first time, it will then make it $I, $2. If I press it again, it's going to give me I, $2. And if I press it again, I'm going to get $I2. And if I press it again, I get I2. So I can rotate back and forth. If you're on a Mac, you can do a Command T and it will rotate through them. You could also type them manually. Now in this case, let's think about this. I want it to be in column I, but I want it to be able to move to J and move to K, but I want it to stay in row 2. So which of the 4 states am I going to use? I'm going to make sure that the $, is before the 2. So I'm doing I, $2. So that when I run this formula, and notice that the number did not change when I made that change to it. The calculation is exactly the same. But now I'm going to go back to I4 and I'm going to use my autofill handle and drag down. And it revises all my numbers for me. Let's take a look and see what we have. In row 5, we have H5 plus I, $2. Sure enough, it sticks to that 10%. So does this one, and this one, and this one. So each of these is increasing its 10% because even though I'm moving the formula up and down, it's sticking tight to row 2. The reason why I made the I relative is because when I take this formula and I move it over to the right, I'm going to get some bad data again. If I go over to J4, I can see that my J2 is correct, but this is in I4, so this is now taking 10% over my 215 totals, not column H. So we have to go back to I4 again. We have to go back and revise this formula another time and modify it even further. We've handled the I2. Now we have to look at the H4. So in this case, we want it to stay in column H, but we want it to move up and down accordingly. So what I'm going to do is modify the formula so that it's $H4. And I'm going to do that in both of the instances of the H4. So my formula for I4 is $H4 plus $H4 times $2. And press return or press enter. Again, the answer is exactly the same. When I autofill it down, the answers are still exactly the same. But now, when I take that and I autofill it across, now I'm actually getting 10%, 15%, and 25% increases over my 2014 numbers. See how that worked? So again, with relative and absolute cell referencing, it's not really a beginning topic, but it's one of those essential tools that you need in your toolkit so that whenever you're working with variables where you have something labeled and an amount right afterwards, you can always replicate that formula wherever you want it to go.